We talked earlier in the inverse explanation video about how an inverse undoes what a function did, and it basically switches x and y. So what was x becomes y, what was y becomes x. For example, if f of 3 equals 7, then the inverse would send the 7 back to the 3. So this would be an x in f, and that would be the y. Now this is the x, and that's the y. So with that in mind, what we're going to do to actually figure out what the inverse function is keep in mind that f of x really is whatever the y value ends up being. So another way to rewrite the given problem is y equals 4 minus x cubed. And now to go to the task of actually finding the inverse, I'm going to literally switch x with y. So I'm going to write down, instead of y equals 4 minus x cubed, I'm going to say x equals 4 minus y cubed. And I'm going to use all my algebra skills to isolate this y, get this y all by itself. And once I've done that, what will be standing before me is the inverse of this function. So whatever this turns x into, when I solve this, it'll turn it back. So we're going to solve this. We're going to focus all energy here. We have to get this thing by itself. So I'm looking at this side of the equation, and I'm saying to myself, is there anything that needs to be added or subtracted from both sides? And I see this 4 here. I'll subtract this 4 from both sides. So I'll end up with x minus 4 equals a negative y cubed, which, you know, if I need to, it's negative 1 times y cubed. Still doing order of operations in reverse. I took care of any addition or subtraction. Now I'm saying, is there anything I have to multiply or divide? Since this is multiplied by negative 1, I can divide by negative 1. Some of you also know you can just kind of swap the signs on everything. So if you want to do that, that's fine. Like if you know to jump straight to y cubed equals 4 minus x, go right ahead and do that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll divide this side by negative 1. I'll divide this side by negative 1. These will cancel. So this right side is y cubed, and this left side becomes negative x plus 4, because I can divide this by negative 1 and also that by negative 1. Negative x plus 4. This y is almost by itself, but it's cubed, and we learned to undo a cube, we can cube root. So I'll go ahead and cube root both sides. Now finally that y is by itself, cube root of negative x plus 4. Y is isolated, so now I'll go back to the notation that I had before. This function was called f, so what I have here is the inverse of f, is a cube root of negative x plus 4. Now Alex goes on to ask this question about what's the domain of the inverse, and I'm not really sure how they want to go about answering that, but for this particular problem, because you can make this a really complicated question, but for this particular question I know that the domain of the inverse equals the range of the original function, the range of the original function. And this function I know, since if I cube a positive number, it'll stay positive. If I cube negative, it stays negative, and they go off to infinity. This function will hit every single y value. It has a range of negative infinity to positive infinity, and therefore the domain of this, which matches the range of that, will be from negative infinity up to infinity. As you do more problems like this, finding the domain of the inverse is always about finding the range of the original function. That can actually be pretty tricky, so I hope they keep these questions simple, because the difficult ones are really more for an advanced pre-calc class, which you will see someday. So we'll just take that as it comes. All right, good luck, you guys. Oh wait, for this on the bottom line is, whatever they give you, replace that f of x with a y, like I did here, swap the x and y, flip them, solve for y, and that equation is the inverse function of this. The last thing I'm going to add to this really fast, if you ever doubt your work, a great way to check your work on this is to pick any x value you want and plug it into here. So let's pick a really simple one. Let's say x equals 2, for example. If x equals 2, then I would do 4 minus 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 8, so 4 minus 2 cubed becomes 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So 2 turns into a negative 4. If I did all my math correctly, then if I take negative 4 and plug it into here, the answer better be 2. This function should turn negative 4 back into 2. I'll leave it to you to see if what I just said actually plays out, but you know, I can see that it does, so I'm pretty happy with it. Good luck, you guys.